I was born in South Korea, immigrated to the United States back in 1972. My parents survived the Japanese occupation, and they lived through the Korean War. Hearing their stories growing up has shaped me and has formed me who I am today.
My parents immigrated in the 70s, and they were really intentional to cultivate Korean pride within us, to teach us our history, our culture.
When I think of my heritage, sometimes it's hard for me the lines blur between Indian, American, Christian, Chicago, it's hard for me to say where one stops and the other begins.
So this month is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we also happen to be in an unprecedented time. What are the ways that you have seen the pandemic divide us? And what are the ways that you've seen the pandemic unify us?
What's been disappointing is to see this desire to assign blame, whether it's to a leader or a political party or to a group of people that look a certain way.
Well, in these last 3 months, we've had the surge of anti-Asian violence take place in our country. There's a professor by the name of Russell Jung from UCSF who documented over 1,000 examples of verbal and physical violence in just the first 2 weeks of the pandemic.
I didn't know the depth of the difficulty that my Asian American brothers were experiencing. Some of the language around the coronavirus, COVID-19, is very similar to what African Americans have experienced in this country. And just to see the connection and see the similarity of experience makes my heart go out.
When I go out for walks, I'll choose to put on sunglasses, or I'll choose to kind of disguise my Asianness. And not even necessarily because I feel like I'm going to necessarily experience hate, but I don't even want to be in the mindset where I misinterpret someone else's look or glance or whatever. I just don't want to feel like I'm being hated.
I mean, it's hard to hear, and I think it's horrible. I was actually just talking with Cynthia Yang on my team. She's an Asian American. She was telling me about a nurse friend that she has that's Asian American, and patients that would come into the hospital and not want to be treated by her.
We've seen people get spit on, beat on, yelled at simply for existing. So my family and you and I, we're hundreds and thousands of Asians right now who feel othered, we feel afraid, we feel isolated. We are not the virus, but we are being treated as though we are.
That fear and anxiety probably is causing some separation and division among our communities. But we as a church, as Christians, we need to come together. The virus does not discriminate, and we should do the same.
And I think a question that we have as people of faith is, what does it look like for us to follow the example of the Samaritan who was a neighbor to his supposed enemy, someone he would have considered a threat? And I think in this story, Jesus is calling us to overcome our racial prejudices, to come close to each other's stories, to see each other as neighbors. I'm asking the larger church, the larger body of Christ, my allies, my sisters, and my brothers, won't you be our neighbor? We are not the virus, we are your neighbor.
I love in 1 Corinthians when Paul talks about the body of Christ. I think oftentimes we use that to say, yeah, we need all the gifts and the skills represented here. But Paul's also talking about the Jew and the Gentile, and he's talking about all races being part of the church. We're incomplete unless we have everybody represented here.
Almost like every Asian American cultural custom is based off of family. What does family mean in your experience?
In my parents' church, and this is the church I grew up in, it really was more of a extended family dynamic, right? Our church wasn't just a place you went on Sunday. These were the people that you did life with. They mourned with you. They celebrate with you. I mean, they're in it with you. And it informs my picture of the church, because to me, when I look at the Acts 2 church, people are breaking bread together, sharing, what they have with people in need. That's the community I experienced growing up.
And it makes me think of when Jesus calls the church the light of the world.
Yeah.
In Matthew 5.
Mm-hmm.
this is the opportunity we have as a church to rise up as the example,
Yeah.
right? Of loving one another and actually practicing unity. Not saying that you have to walk away from your heritage to be a part of what we're doing,
Yes.
but you can come fully as you are.
Yeah.
And we might all be uncomfortable for a little bit, to be honest,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but it's okay.